Franca. I'm your host for the Francamente podcast, and I'm so excited to be here with you. Thank you so much for listening. And without further ado, let's bias your football content. MLS is back, baby. MLS is back. It's a new season, and I could not be any less excited for it. Did you think this was going to be a pro MLS episode? It is not. It is not, but stick around anyway. Welcome. This is episode 5. We can officially say we're a podcast that exists now. We've been around and we're doing this. We're doing the thing. The last one was so personal. It was so touching. I'm so grateful to all my listeners. I love y'all. The feedback's great. And I just think you guys are so amazing. Thank you for tuning in to I cannot talk. Thank you for tuning in each what is it? So what does bi-weekly mean? Is it bi-weekly or is it bi-monthly? It's every 2 weeks it drops, right? And so some people say, because it's bi-weekly twice a week, I do not know. Maybe it's bi-monthly. But every time it drops, thank you for tuning in. You guys are the best. And last week's episode was personal and touching. This week's, I think, is going to be a little more spicy, a little less serious, but no less exciting. So we're going to talk about MLS. Listen, like with everything else, delusional MLS fans just be out here ruining it for everyone. Delusional MLS fans, delusional US stands ruin it for everyone. Like basically any subsection of fandom is toxic as fuck. And MLS is no different, right? So I have to start by saying, look, I'm a fan since day one. What am I wearing today? If you're watching on YouTube, I'm wearing like the only rbny kit I would spend money on after the Henri kit, which is the other one I wear, since I have a personal history with this team since day one, the Metro Stars. I will talk about that in the second half of this episode, but it is a pretty sexy kit from an aesthetic standard. I think when they did this league-wide same template for every single team, I think one of my favorites, and not because it's my team, because I have no problem criticizing this team, was this one, the red and black, because it is a tribute to the Metro Stars. The details are so good, and there is a little like in the corner, they have a little like actual tribute to like the Metro Stars kit, the classic striped one. So yeah, I'm wearing it. I love kits. I'm a kit collector. And even when I'm mad at teams, even when I'm like bashing, leagues, I'm not going to stop wearing the kits that I spent good money on. So yeah, I'm wearing it. It's topical. It's one of my favorite ones. And we're going to be talking about MLS. Speaking of kits, okay, and Red Bulls, this is the first season that MLS did that. Well, the first season in a while, if anything, because I don't remember them being able to be this creative ever. The MLS allowed teams to be really, really creative with is it their third kit? Is it their second kit? I don't even know what the standard is anymore for, like, do they have 2 kits? Do they have 3? Their kits, they're not training tops. They're kits they're gonna wear on the pitch. And so everyone got to design, every team got to design one that was like either meaningful to their city or whatever, something like creative. They didn't have to stick to a color scheme. They didn't have to stick to a template. And some of them are gorgeous. I hate to say this, but honestly, I really like NYCFC's. Like Portland's is gorgeous. Okay. The Red Bulls one is disgusting. It's the ugliest one. First of all, it looks like moldy cheese. Why are you choosing those colors? A lot of people are calling it the PP kit because it's like the disgusting shade of yellow. What the fuck are you doing? What does it mean? What does it mean? It's got no identity. I'm going to talk about this in a little bit, but it's got nothing that ties it to any sort of historical or any other type of identity for the Red Bulls. It's disgusting. It's so ugly. It's the ugliest one. And I know there's other uggos, but I was so excited for this to drop of like, oh yeah, we're going to have some exciting kit. It's gross. It's gross. Like, how do you get excited about that? Like, everything Red Bull does is the wrong thing. They can't do shit right. Like, they suck. Why am I a fan of this team? I do not know, because I'm loyal to a fault. I am too loyal, like sometimes to my detriment. And I was at the very first Metro Stars game ever. I still have the ticket. Like, that's it. I'm stuck with this team, but I'm so mad at them this season. I'm like, I cannot find one thing to get excited about with this season. First of all, the Red Bulls already lost, and they played on my birthday, their first game. Okay, by the time this drops, there will have been a second week of games. At this point, there's only been one game. RBNY lost already. We're starting out bad. Okay. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. It's one of the original teams in MLS. The only one that has not won a cup. Is it the only one that hasn't won a cup from the originals? I think it is. And I need a fact checker. Shouts to my fact checker who sends me little messages later on in the week after the episode drops. And I'm like, do you want to come on and do this? Because I need you. So sometimes I just say shit. But I think it's the only one, and like it feels like it is, that has not won a cup. And like, yes, we've won some shields, and those matter to me. The supporter shield is important. Let's talk about that. There's folks for whom, okay, I just got a secret, what's it called? What do you call this? In Spanish, we call it la cucaracha, and it's like whatever's in your. It's like when personalities have like the little ear sets, and the producers are telling them stuff. That the Revs also haven't won one. Good. I hope the Red Bulls win one before them. I don't see how or when. And it's really hard to get excited for this team. First of all, it's really hard to get excited for MLS every single year, regardless. It's such a shit league. And trust me, if you're tuning in for the first time, if this is your first episode listening to me, and if you're not watching on YouTube, I'm wearing a Red Bulls kit. MLS, I've always said this, it's like your little sibling. Okay. If you are a fan, or if you're, involved, or if you're in it or whatever, you can talk shit. Like we can talk shit about our little siblings, but let someone outsider try to come and talk shit about our little siblings. And no, that's not going to stand. We're going to defend them. Right. That's MLS. I'm talking shit about MLS because it's my little sibling, right? Like, I'm talking shit about MLS. I want MLS to thrive. It's never going to, as long as we stay under these conditions. I'll unpack this in a little bit. But so I'm talking shit about MLS because MLS sucks, but I'm also a fan. So let's have those two things, dialectical materialism. Okay. Two things can exist at once, and have some nuance, but also don't come for me to be like, oh, MLS basher. Like, okay, I've been suffering this since day one, so I've earned my right. Okay. And also, yeah, like, I'm going to bash the shit out of it. Okay. It's harder and harder every single year to get excited for the shit league. A lot of it is the delusional stands. You know what I saw in the offseason? I saw people claim that this is like a top 4 league in the world on Twitter. I swear to God, I am not making this up. I saw this and I was like, bitch, where? Like, please back this up. Cite your sources. La Profe comes out, okay? Cite your sources and give me a works cited page in MLA style for where, what's your evidence that this is a top 4 league in the world? Not even close. Not even close. People are delusional. It's a shit league, okay? It's a shit league. It's what we have. I've always said this. It's what we have. And live football is very important to me and many of us. So yeah, we watch our local, whatever. But let's not be fucking delusional, like United Stations claiming that this is a top 4 league in the world. Not even close. So it's really hard to get excited. I go to fewer and fewer games each season. I don't even know if I'll go to one if I'll go to one at all this season. Like, why am I going to spend money on a team and an organization that does not care about me? First of all, there's massive issues with the Red Bull front office. But secondly, and then they do this kit shit. Like Red Bull, the corporation, does not care about this team. They never have. So what are we doing? Where like they don't make any signings that matter. Like, you know, like there's teams doing things in an all right fashion. We're going to talk about which ones I feel that is. And the Red Bulls are never one of them. You've got Red Bull money. That's global money. What is you doing? Okay. I hate my team. I hate this league. Kids suck. Okay. Now another thing and another issue this season with MLS is this Apple TV bullshit. Now I need to preface this again. If there is one, if I'm anti-capitalist as fuck. Okay. If there's one corporation I will ever stand for, it's Apple. I'm an Apple nerd. I'm an Apple snob. Apple has been my life since its existence. We were born the same year. Okay. Apple and I. And there's a whole heartwarming story about how I got into Apple. It's through my dad and all sorts of stuff like that. We won't get into it now, but that's my disclaimer. Okay. I am an Apple, like, the fascist. Like I'm anti-capitalist unless it's Apple. All right. This is how serious and deep my love goes for Apple TV. You think I'm gonna pay money to Apple to watch fucking MLS? Are you sick? Are you high? Is this the Twilight Zone? You want people to spend $12 a month plus just to watch this shit league? Like the level of paywall for football in this country is like you can't. It's laughable. It's laughable at this point. The accessibility factor. You claim you want your sport to grow in popularity, and then you put it behind a paywall. Who can afford that? You know who you're gonna get? Your usual, you know, middle class, probably predominantly white audience who's already your little, you know, like stan boys on Twitter, like defending MLS to the death, calling it the top 4 league in the world. That's who you're gonna get to sign up for your little deal. The rest of us I will not watch a game if they don't have an option that's not on Apple TV. Now, this last weekend, some of the games were on. Now, this last weekend was my birthday, so I was busy. I didn't even watch the Red Bulls. Like, I was just busy partying. But apparently some were on TV because we don't have the Apple TV thing, or I guess maybe some of them were free. But how are you gonna literally make every decision be the worst fucking decision you've ever made in your life? Like, it's just insane. We're not doing it. We are not doing it. Okay. So the Red Bulls lost. NYCFC lost, and that is always a good thing for the betterment of humanity. A couple of teams that, so it's interesting because I'm a Red Bulls fan and I have a couple of other teams in the league that I sympathize with. And some of these choices are controversial. Okay. But for example, I have a love-hate relationship to Atlanta United now. I have always hated Atlanta United, and it's not a rivalry, it's a semi-rivalry. I might talk about rivalries in a little bit because I have feelings on that too. But Atlanta United broke our hearts multiple times. However, what Atlanta United is doing in that market is unmatched. We have got to give them props for the way they are including marginalized communities, for the way they just like fill this massive stadium. And you know, an episode can't go by if I don't highlight Argentina or Uruguay, okay? They've got Thiago Almada, who's the only, in the history of the league, he's the only current active World Cup winner who played for MLS when they won the World Cup. That is huge. That's huge. Okay. And he plays for Atlanta and he's so good. I have to like give them props for their vibes. Like as a team, as you know, their fandom, their supporters groups, like Ludacris was at the last game. Okay. Like, come on. Their kits are sick. They're so sexy. It's totally Metro Stars vibes. So, I mean, I don't know. I would never wish anything good on Atlanta United, but because a good friend has moved to that market and is trying to brainwash me by sending me videos and pictures, I don't know. I'm going to follow Atlanta United a little bit more closely. I don't want them to win the league or anything like that. But by the way, I started to say this before, and I want to finish that thought. This is how it works when you have ADHD. Welcome to the ADHD podcast. Now I already forgot. The Supporter Shield. Okay, the Supporter Shield is the true champion of the league if we go by world standards. Supporter Shield is the winner on points. In the rest of the world, there's no playoffs. So you win on points and that's it. And that to me matters. Like the fact that the Red Bulls have one Supporter Shield, to me, it matters. And it's not because I'm holding on to some like thing. I don't care about MLS Cup really, but I do think it would be nice for the Red Bulls to win it. But for me, as far as I'm concerned, true champion is the supporters the Supporter Shield winner. So Red Bulls have a few of those. But again, to go back to Atlanta, it's a love-hate. I do not want them to win anything at all ever, but it is worth mentioning how cool the market is there. I also have good feelings about Austin, and I don't know why that's controversial, but it is. Some folks just like hate Austin for whatever reason. I just love their vibe too. I love that they call their like music section, they call it La Murga. And murga is literally they call it that because of the drum. But obviously murga is my shit. It's a Uruguayan carnival component that's so unique in the world. I wrote my dissertation on it. So like I just have to shout out Austin and their murga. They lost though. We've got a new team. St. Louis is playing their first their first season because we keep expanding because this is another thing. Like MLS is unique in this way. I love Montreal because I just love Montreal, the city. I've been to a Montreal game, and it was really fun. And of course, like I like them. I want them to thrive when they're not playing us. They lost. Austin lost too. Another controversial opinion is that I love Portland and Seattle. More Portland though. I actually have we have Portland kits in this kit closet because first of all I love Valeri, and he was one of the first global south, like one of the first Southern Cone players to really like make a name in this league. But I just like Portland, and a thing about the Pacific Northwest that I really love is that it's unique in this country for having a massive crowd for these games. Portland and Seattle is obviously a classico, right? It's a rivalry that's natural because MLS loves to manufacture rivalries, right? It's a natural rivalry, and both of these cities are predominantly white, which is or United Station. Let's not say white. Let's say United Station, which is unique because in other massive MLS markets, the fandom is predominantly marginalized, whether it's Latinos, right? Whether it's like folks from other places. And in Seattle and Portland, it's legit just like United Stations. Is it because there's a lot of hipsters there? I have always wanted to research this as like an actual research topic. But I sympathize with both of those teams, obviously, because like Seattle has a Uruguayan, but I do, if I had to pick one of those two, Portland. Bucket list is to see that game somewhere in one of those two cities. An away trip to the Pacific Northwest is definitely must happen. Then the last like little event thing that I wanted to mention, the El Tráfico was moved. They had to postpone it because of snow in California. Can we talk about climate change? Okay. Literally for climate change deniers. What the fuck is going on this year? First of all, we haven't had a winter really. On the East Coast, we have not had a winter. There's been a couple little like snow days here and there. Winter's gone. Now we're like starting spring, and then like you're telling me you had to postpone a game in Los Angeles for snow. Like, but climate change isn't real? Come on. It's crazy. It's crazy. Manufactured rivalries though. Let's talk about it. That game I just talked about, El Tráfico. That's an organic rivalry. Those two teams hate each other, right? But then they like MLS doing rivalry week and having like these manufactured like superficial rivalries. Like it ain't it. Like the Red Bulls have one rival historically, it's DC United. If we wanted to stretch it to NYCFC, obviously, because NYCFC came later and we hate them, but like the whole league hates NYCFC. You know what I mean? It doesn't count. Like Philly is not a rivalry. They swear they are, they aren't. Sorry to break it to you. We don't think about you at all. And so what is it? Like, what is with all these manufactured rivalries? Like, just let things happen. MLS doesn't have an identity. It's got an identity crisis, and it's because United Stations are always feeling so like inadequate, right? In terms of the rest of the world, as you should, because football in this country sucks. But build your own identity and go from there. Let it be organic. There's no need to manufacture all these things that you just like see happening in other places. Like, let things grow and happen organically. I'll bash the league all day long, but it's 25, it's 26 years old, right? 26, 27, however old it is. We just had the 25th anniversary year, but also I don't know what time is. So that could have been 3 years ago. But that's a relatively young league. Stop trying to force like quote unquote traditions or whatever that you see in other countries. Like, let things be born organically, including rivalries. We don't need to manufacture these things. They're born just naturally. So MLS is back, baybayyy. No excitement. Let's see what we get into in the second segment.
Hey, make sure to follow and subscribe to the podcast on your favorite platform so you never miss an episode. And help us out by leaving a rating and review, and remember to share it with a friend. Don't forget to follow Franca on Twitter and Instagram at Francamente for the latest news. And lastly, please visit realfrancamente.com for bonus content, including articles, photos, and for more information about the podcast.
So, I touched upon this earlier in this episode. I have been a Metro Stars fan since day one, literally. And flashback to 1996. First of all, the Metro Stars kit, I recently posted a picture. Actually, I think it was on my birthday of, or maybe the day before, of me as a child in that kit, the half and half kit with the zigzag. Like, you know the kit I'm talking about, right? The best kit in the history of kits, that Red Bulls, Metro Stars, like half and half. It's like iconic of Tab Ramos wearing it in my head. And that was the best kit, and we no longer have it. And I think having lost that jersey as a family, I think is what has made me a hoarder. And now I refuse to throw anything out just in case, because my number one regret in life is not having that kit anymore, which is so sexy. It's the best kit ever. So first season, picture it. Sicily, 1922. Dover, New Jersey, 1996. And my dad comes home from work and he's like, oh, I got these tickets to this like game, like a football game. And we were like, oh my gosh, obviously we had not seen, I don't remember having watched much live football before that. Definitely no club football. And I was like, oh, cool. Who's playing? And he was like, New York, New Jersey. And he said a third state. I don't know who they played that first game. I forget. And I was like, and in my head, I was like, oh, I asked, I was like, is it a tournament? Like, there's 3 teams in it? What the heck? And then he explained that no, the team is called the New York, New Jersey Metro Stars. And it's this new thing. And there's a Uruguayan on the team. And let's go. Okay, cool. So we go. It was awesome. That was the start of my love affair with the Metro Stars. From that day on, we went to so many games throughout that season, and then obviously like later seasons. It was magical because, first of all, I mean, it was Giant Stadium at the time. It was magical to have a team, a local team, like in the United States. That was like, it was unheard of. Like, we obviously because we were immigrants, I mean, we had arrived just 3 years prior, right? So we didn't live through other leagues, right? That were big in this country. So like, that was like the first time that we were able to be like, oh my God, like we have this team, cool. You know, there was like some cool stuff happening. By the way, bring back the run-up penalty kicks, please. Like, let's bring that back. That's what I'm talking about. That first season, it was so quirky. MLS was quirky. MLS had an identity. Okay. We had the original team. So we had Columbus Crew, still has their name. We had that one little, moment where they might have been sold, but the Save the Crew movement was successful. So Columbus Crew is still quirky, but they did unquirkify their crest recently, and I don't like that. DC United, the Revs, the Revolution, and who else has kept their name as is? The Galaxy, right? The Galaxy is still such a Galaxy. It's such a cool, it's so United Station, right? And then you had teams like, the Metro Stars, you had the Rapids, you had Dallas Burn. Oh my God. And their badge was so cool. The Kansas City Wiz, and the San Jose Clash. And the Mutiny. Did I mention the Mutiny? Yeah, Tampa Bay Mutiny. That was sexy team names. Those badges were sick. The colors, the socks, with the hoops. I mean, it was an identity. It was United Station to a T, which we hate the United States, but you're building a league, right? Build your own identity. Own it. Own the things that make your culture quirky, fun, and different. I loved, I have so much nostalgia for those first few seasons. Now, all these teams, the ones that are left, have either been sold out, or changed their names to everything. Now it has to be European, right? It's or foreign. We've got Sporting Kansas City, and we've got Real Salt Lake, and so many FCs, and it's what history is there to back up this change? Not to mention, so I'm a Metro Stars fan since day one. When they sold out to Red Bull, the corporation, I was pissed. My whole family was pissed. We boycotted for a good while. It was oh my God, no, I'm not going to support this team. And then what happens is your thirst for live football, live team football, live top flight team football, because I also we need to talk about this quote unquote movement of people who are second division and all that stuff, because there's so much toxicity there too, which maybe we'll save for another day. But top flight football, okay, and then you just whatever, we sold out too, stopped boycotting, eventually went back to watch the Red Bulls, but it was a punch in the gut for the Metro Stars to sell out with the amount of history that they had. It's never really been the same, my love for this team, since that. It's I've always kind of at a distance, right? There's seasons where I go more often than others. There's seasons, I've been in supporters groups and whatever, but it's always been love-hate ever since they sold out to this corporation. And that's what's happened to MLS. It's become corporate. And every year, instead of getting better, it gets worse. We keep expanding and more expansion teams instead of spending the time figuring out what is the identity of the league and what's the direction it's headed in. What do we want, right? It's all about money. Who can we sell a team to? And more investors and more this and more that. It is whack. It's whack as fuck. There's no identity in U.S. football. Now, when you have your top league in the country be a joke, that is also connected to, because as much as your players, many of them, you want them to play in foreign leagues so they get better, right? So we want United Stations theoretically to play outside the country because the MLS is whack. But don't you also at the same time want to grow your league so that it is not a joke, so that your players can also be homegrown and also, not be laughed at for playing in MLS or not taken seriously or not even called up at all for the national team? Do you think those two things are unrelated? That's what I don't understand about these purists who are oh, I don't watch MLS, but I do watch USL or I do watch whatever. That's awesome to have local teams and lower leagues support them for sure. But what I don't get is there's a hypocrisy. There's a disconnect by people who do that, bash MLS, but then also support the U.S. national team. Where do you want your players to come from? Where do you think U.S. national players come from. Like, there's just it's like no consistency, just vibes, right? But no real vibes either. It's just a clusterfuck. US football in general is fucked. The first thing that would need to be abolished in order for US football to be taken more seriously is pay to play. Pay to play is embarrassing. It is embarrassing that in a country that boasts such, being so rich and whatever, and having so many resources, we have literal gates up. The gatekeeping is such that you don't, it's not that it's even close to equitable, because it doesn't mean if pay to play is abolished, it'll be necessarily super equitable, but you're literally putting up a barrier. If you don't have this money to join these prestigious teams, you cannot make it in US football. And here's a nugget of wisdom or whatever, okay? This is a spicy take. Rich people are not good at sports. And they never will be. You know why? Because when you've never felt hunger, I'm saying this metaphorically, when you've never felt hunger, you have never had to work for anything in your life. You could give it doesn't matter to you whether your team wins or loses, whether you can kick the ball well or not. Everything you do, everything has been handed to you. So there's nothing that you feel passionate about. What are you going to leave out on the field? When folks who make it come from nothing, you can tell on the pitch because they leave everything. When you're rich, you've got nothing to leave. Like, you could take it or leave it. Right? You're going to go back to your rich, mansion, cars, or whatever. I'm talking about being born into wealth, because these are the people that can afford the coaches, the equipment, the travel team, and all of these barriers to playing. Right? Rich people will never be good at sports. Look at everyone's little hero, who shall not be named, Captain NRA. Okay, everyone's little, fascist favorite captain, right? They call him Captain Blank. I'm not going to even say it because it's a continent. That man has never sweat a drop of sweat in his life. He's simply not good. He's simply not good. Like, he's fine. He's an okay player. And that is who you put all your money on for your team, for your national team. That's who's the face of your team. Because even when it comes to, if we look at intersectionality and if we look at the inclusion of folks who are marginalized, okay, if you are marginalized either racially or in other ways, but grew up with money, you're still part of this, right? Like, it's the capitalism that's the problem, right? Rich kids who have everything, they're just not that good at sports because they don't care about much stuff. And that's who ends up making it to the US national team. What are we doing? Those are very few of us who call out this systemic injustice in the US are seen as too radical, or seen as too this, or seen as whatever, like unsupportive. Of course, no, I don't support the US men's national team. I want them to lose every single game they play. But I'm able to also have an analysis that those of you that do want your team to succeed should want these things. One of them being abolishing pay to play, because it's keeping so many kids out of the system that could be genuinely good, but just don't have the money to make it. Imagine your system surviving off of pay to play. That's embarrassing. And that's part of the reason why the US will never be good. Another part is the MLS is a joke. And yes, I call it the MLS, and I have no problem with that. Okay. And football in the US, it's just not popular. No one cares about it outside of our little bubble. I know everyone on US, Stan, Twitter, whatever, like the little communities, the US football community, the US football Twitter community, whatever, all of it. It's so small. And side note, thank God, because it's toxic as fuck too. US football Twitter, like US Stan Twitter, MLS Twitter, it's toxic as fuck. I want no part of it, right? Yikes. But it's very small. Sometimes we're unable to look outside of that bubble, and we delude ourselves into being like, oh yeah, football is growing. Where is the data that fandom's growing? And I'm talking about demographics in terms of numbers. Where is it growing outside of metropolitan areas? Where is the coverage? Because even in areas that are metropolitan that have good teams, those teams don't get coverage in mainstream, like sports coverage, in mainstream news and mainstream newspapers. There are, in the New York area, okay, so we've got two football teams, we've got two basketball teams, two NFL hand egg games, right? Hand egg teams, two basketball teams, we've got two baseball teams. And I don't know how many hockey teams is it. So like there is the New Jersey team. I don't know, two or three in the metro area. Those are the sports and the teams that get covered and considered like part of the identity and part of the environment of sports in the New York metro area. Not a peep about either. Not a peep about the Red Bulls or NYCFC. And if you do get coverage, it's very, very rare. So stepping outside of our bubble to realize that we've got so much work to do if we want this sport to truly grow organically. I think there's ways. There's ways that we can embrace this quirky identity. We can embrace being a newish league, create those traditions, be true to your history instead of trying to look to Europe and whatever. Pay to play needs to be abolished for starters. MLS's success is connected to the US football success at the national level. Okay. And another thing, and I'm hesitant to even bring this up because again, this faction of like Twitter, or this faction of like of fans of this are so toxic, but promotion and relegation. You cannot have a closed system succeed, because where is the like if there's no consequences, okay, for doing poorly, where like why would what drive do teams have to not, if you're from the half of the table and down, you're like, I'll stay up anyway, so who cares if I'm 8th or whatever, 12th. I don't even know how many teams are in each conference anymore because we get new ones every single year. What is the goal of MLS? What's the mission statement of the league? Is there one? If so, how are they living up to it? These are all things that like we don't talk about because it's always by the way, anyone who's not like positive, right? It's always like, oh my gosh, like if you don't support your team, like you're trash or whatever. And it's like, no, just like with patriotism, just like with talking about what's wrong with countries, with societies, we can talk about what's wrong with the league if we want it to be better, right? Because like it's literally akin to those people that are like, oh, if you don't like it here, leave, which is A, unproductive, and B, racist as fuck, because who is anyone to tell anyone else where to be or not, especially on stolen land? Well, this is the same idea. Oh, if you don't like it, like, oh, you should be like positive and support your team. Like that is clown shit. Okay? We are not children. We are not toddlers. This is a serious fucking thing. You know how much money goes into this league, and I'm just supposed to shut up and take it every time the Red Bulls slap me in the face as a fan? No, I'm going to call it out. And there's ways that this league can thrive and can grow. And this ain't it. This ain't it. One of the things the Red Bulls get so much shit for is attendance numbers, right? And people get so offended. Like, why do we get so offended? It's just fucking true. No one goes to Red Bulls games. And Red Bull does not ever question why. They don't ever go like have an introspective, like, okay, clearly we're doing something wrong here. The stadium, and this is I don't have a reason to praise the Red Bulls for any reason. The stadium is state of the art. People from outside, people from other teams, fans of other teams have said especially until recent ones, like this is the best football specific stadium in the country, right? It probably isn't now since more have been built, but whatever, it's up there, right? It's one of the top just football specific stadiums in the country. It's gorgeous. It is a crime that it is never full. There's certainly enough people that could fill it if the team cared, but it's almost like, is it a money laundering scheme? Like, why does this corporation just not care about it at all? And why do we allow it? Because I've been around for situations where like front office tried to come and bribe, supporters groups to like not say shit about stuff, and it works because no one is about it. Everyone want to pretend to be about it till it's time to be about it. And that's the reality. Money talks. People will take bribes. People will shut their mouths. That's how censorship works. That's how fascism works. Why do we allow it? Do we really care that much then? So then why do we complain when the US sucks at football? Like, why do we sit there and just take it when the league could be so much better? This is my love-hate situation with my team. I'm wearing this kit. It's probably the last Red Bulls kit I'll ever buy. Never say never, but who knows, unless they go back to being the Metro Stars. Okay, because why would I spend my hard-earned money on a team that does not give a fuck about me? I don't get the like just blind praise. It's akin to blind patriotism, and it's embarrassing. It is embarrassing. Okay, this league is a joke worldwide. It can get to a place where it isn't, and it can improve, but we have got to stop with this just blind support. And we need to talk about these real issues if we care about getting to an equitable place. If we don't, then just say that, and that's fine too. I do not know what the season holds. I do not know if you'll see me at Red Bull Arena. You might. For funsies and for nostalgia, but as of right now, I have no like drive. I see no need to spend my hard-earned money on tickets and B on getting there, because currently I live kind of far away. And it's a drive. And I would do it for my teams from the heart, truly, like a team that I follow since birth, or I would do it for a team that genuinely was worth it. The Red Bulls as it stands right now, no. But I feel that way about the whole league, right? What are we doing by allowing this to continue to just be like this mediocre ass joke of a league? We've got to do better. We've got to do better. We've got to talk about it more. Don't come at me with your hate. Channel that into some productive ways to figure out how you can improve your league and your team. Thank you. Thank you so much for listening today. I hope you liked it. This has been Real Francamente, the podcast. My name is Franca. I'm your host. Be sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram, Real Francamente on both. Interact. Let us know what you think. Unless it's bad, then don't let me know. Check out our website, www.realfrancamente.com. You can find lots of content there, or contact us directly with any questions or comments. Links, ads, all of that fun stuff will be in the show notes if you need them or want them, for ease of not having to spell yourself, Real Francamente. I know it's hard. Check the show notes. Please subscribe on your favorite platform and maybe leave us a rating and a review if it's good, and share with your friends. Don't forget to buy us your football content. Gracias y chao.